welcome to Mr. Paul's Pantry. I'm Mr. Paul, and the recipe today is going to be for a sausage toad in the hole. Hope you enjoy it. Now for this recipe we're going to make the batter first. This is for the toad in the hole. This is the Yorkshire pudding batter first, and what we need to do is we need to crack the eggs first. 4 eggs. These are large eggs, by the way. Four eggs. And half a teaspoon of salt. What we need to do now is to mix those together. Sorry, a piece of shell there. Just spotted it. So there we are. Mix the eggs. Now we want to add a little of the flour. Not all of it, just a little of it to start with. Because if you add it all, you'll have great difficulty getting rid of the lumps afterwards. A little more. There we are. You can use an electric mixer for this if you want, but for such a small quantity, it's hardly worth getting it all out and plugging it in and washing it up afterwards. Now we can add all the rest of the flour. Incorporate that first before we add any of the liquid. And by the way, there's 225 grams, although the recipe will be in the description box below the video. And also on my website I'll leave a link there. And for those of you who don't know where the description box is, and I've had several people ask me, it's just below this video, and you'll see it'll say show more or see more. I think it says show more. You click on that and it'll just open and show you anything I've put there, any information, any instructions, or any links to anywhere else. Okay, now we need to add a little of the milk. Now this is milk and water 50-50, so there's 148 mils of milk and 148 millilitres of water. We don't use all milk. It does tend to make the Yorkshire pudding a little heavy. What actually happens, and why it makes it lighter, is when you're cooking the Yorkshire pudding in the oven, the water that I've put in will evaporate, leaving nothing. Whereas the milk, the moisture in the milk will evaporate, but it will leave the milk solids behind. So there we are. Now we're going to put the rest of the milk in, milk and water. 50-50, remember. Now, I've been watching videos on YouTube for a long time, and I see some of these so-called chefs. The way they perform with the Yorkshire pudding, you'll never believe it. I don't know where they get their ideas from. I don't know where I get people saying, now you have to whisk it and whisk it and whisk it till you get a lot of air into it. Now that's impossible to get air into something as thin as that. It needs to be like just ordinary cream, single cream. I'll defy anybody to get air to stay in there, because the bubbles just come to the top and disappear. They say, oh, you have to leave it hours and you have to leave it overnight and everything like that. Well, what I do is I make the batter now, and then whilst I'm doing the rest of it, like browning the sausages a little bit, because they don't always brown nicely all over when they're in the toad. Where they're touching the batter they don't brown, so I like to brown them a little bit first. And also I shall be preparing my potatoes for roast potatoes, which I'll have with the toad in the hole. So I don't leave it for any particular length of time. I just leave it until I've got everything else ready. So there's the batter. I'm sure you can see it now. It's nice and thin, and we'll just put it to one side, and wait. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just give some colour to the sausages. I don't want to cook them through. I just want to give them a little colour, because wherever the sausages are touching the batter in the toad in the hole, they don't brown. So what we're going to do is just put some colour on them like this before they go in into the oven. This will take a short while. Now, yes, they're colouring nicely. Just a little bit of colour there. There we are. That's all it needs. They'll cook the rest of the time in with the batter. Give it a little stir, and we want to just put enough batter in there to probably cover the bottom. It doesn't need a lot of batter. Just enough to cover the bottom like that. And that's going to go straight back in to the oven at 200 degrees. And they'll take about, I'll look at them at 30 minutes. So now we're going to make the onion gravy. Here I've got a little oil in the pan and a roughly chopped onion, and we need to caramelize those a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. Careful not to burn them. It'll take about 10 minutes to do that. Just keep having a look at them and keep them on the move. Now the onions are just starting to caramelize there, just nicely. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of flour, not a lot, just a little bit of flour. Cook that off a little bit, and that will thicken the gravy very nicely. As soon as we've done that, cook it off slightly, and then we're going to add the stock. Here we go. Give it a stir. And we're going to leave that to simmer now for a couple of minutes. And then we'll serve it up. And here we have, just coming out of the oven, the roast potatoes. Yeah, nice and crispy. And they can all be lifted off the tin. They'll be nice and crispy on the outside, sorry, and fluffy on the inside. Here in Spain, I use a variety called Agata. In England, you should be looking for probably Maris Piper. And right, it's time to have a look at the Yorkshire puddings. Let's have a look. Well, there we are. I think they look just nice. Can you see that? I think they look very, very good there. The first thing is the Yorkshire pudding. And there he is. I think you can see that quite clearly. There you go. And I think that's quite a lot of Yorkshire for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the Yorkshire. It's very crunchy there. I'm going to cut the Yorkshire, but I'm going to keep the sausage. Okay? I'm going to keep the sausage. There we are. Now we'll dish up the rest of it. Some nice roast potatoes, and these are absolutely perfect. I'll show you in a moment. They're very, very hot, but I'll show you this. Very crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside. See that? It's beautiful. Delicious. Now, a little lemon glazed carrots. And of course some of this beautiful gravy. And there we are. There we have it. Well, if you enjoyed it, please give it a like, leave your comments underneath, and don't forget to subscribe, because every time you press subscribe, a little bell will appear. Click that, and that'll make sure you get notified every time I put up a new video. See you next time. Bye.